Hello, Yawning Angel back again with another AMOS video, and in this video we are looking at 3 new commands. Those commands being load IFF, get icon and paste icon, and we're going to be using some graphics that we create ourselves in our AMOS program. How exciting is that? So in previous videos we've looked at setting zones, mouse click, limiting your mouse, in order to create buttons on a screen to enable a user to click and interact with functionality within your program. Well, this time I want to go a little step further and create those buttons in an external art package, load that IFF file into AMOS, then cut out the buttons effectively from that IFF file and create icons with them and use those icons as the buttons within our AMOS program. So in order to do that, I'm going to use Personal Paint to create those buttons. You can use dpaint, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you just need an IFF file with those graphics for the buttons on them that you can then load into AMOS. And we'll use the load IFF command in order to get that done. We're then going to use the get icon command to cut out the images and create button icons, as it were. And then we're going to use the paste icon command to put those buttons on the screen. And then we'll just use our usual mouse zones, mouse clicks, to enable that functionality. So this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little bit lengthy, so stick with it, but it's well worth it in the end. Jumping into Personal Paint, first thing I did was set up my screen format. So I'm in PAL high res and I wanted to go to 16 colors. Obviously your mileage may vary depending on your setup. So I wanted to create some more colors, more shades here. So I went with gray and orange. So I created 4 shades of gray, just the 4. And some more orange there because those were the colors I wanted for my buttons. Now I must stress I'm not a graphic artist at all, so this is all best endeavors on my part. I created a shape for the buttons and then it was just a case of, coloring that in, filling in the different shades so it gave it some sort of 3D-ish kind of effect and made it actually look like a button. Next up was adding the text to the buttons. So there's 2 things you realise when using an older package like this, when you're used to modern packages like Photoshop, and that being that for back in the day, these packages were incredibly advanced and really, really good. But when you get used to using modern tools, you realise how much functionality you're lacking on some of the older software. And yes, I could have used Photoshop to create these and saved it off as an IFF file in there, then imported that onto my Amiga. But it's more fun using, the real software on a real machine. It gives you a sense of being more involved in what you're creating. And it's a lot more fun sometimes just to go back to things which are a little bit more basic in their execution. So adding the text to the buttons, this was a bit of trial and error really. I had a few attempts at this to get the right font and the right sizing. You'll also notice the finished file looks slightly different to what you're seeing here on the screen because I had to go back and make some changes because in my haste I'd got some of the shading wrong. But it was fun doing it and it's a relaxing sort of exercise as well. And it's nice seeing all this come together and know that you're going to be using this in anger in a real program. Right, so now we've created the buttons here as an IFF file in Personal Paint. That IFF file needs to be saved off into a folder where our AMOS program is going to be, so it just makes it easier to load in. We're then going to create our AMOS program that loads this file in. We're then going to cut those buttons out and create icons with them, and then create the functionality so the buttons can be enabled within our program to do functional things. So this is really exciting. Hope you're enjoying this, but let's get on with the next step. Right, so what I've done here, I've already created some of the comments in the code. So I've already got our steps listed here as to what we're going to do. So we're going to open a screen and load the button bank image in. We're going to grab the icons. We're using GFX coordinates for this, not hardware coordinates. We're going to set up our screen, We're going to draw a box to contain the buttons. We're going to paste the buttons as icons. We're going to define the zones for the buttons, and then we're going to control activity. Exciting stuff. So let's get on with it. Don't forget, this code will be available for download on my website. It will be there after this video has been released. So all good news. Right, so let's get going with it then. So the first thing is I'm going to create a screen. So as usual, screen open 1, we'll have that at 640 by 256. We'll have it 16 colors, and we'll have it as a high-res screen. We're then going to do a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to clear the screen. We're going to turn any flashing off, and we're going to turn off the cursor. Right. Then what we're going to do is load in our graphics file, our IFF file. So what I need to do is set the directory string equals, now this is where I've got mine located. So mine is in DH1 pictures. So that's where I'm pointing the directory. And I'm going to now use load IFF. And I'm going to give it the file name, and my file name is button_bank_3.iff. Yawning Angel, why is it called button bank 3? Well, I had button bank 1 and 2, they didn't work out and I've kept them, so I've called the latest one button bank 3. I'll probably rename this for the upload, so don't worry if the name is different. I'll probably just call it button bank or something. Right, so with that done, so if I press F1 now, what we should see is that image come in, and there it is. So that was the image that I'd created in Personal Paint, and I've got 2, obviously, of each button. So one is my, as the button is, and then what happens when you click the button. So there's a different version of that button to give a bit of animation to it. So that's that first step done quite nicely. So the next step is going to be to actually grab the graphics coordinates, and we'll move on to that right now. Okay, so we need to get the coordinates. Now, a quick and easy way of doing this, I've already added a piece of code to this program, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'll put another procedure in. But what we're going to do, in the control activity, we're going to jump ahead to step 7 quickly. We're going to do a bit of a loop here, just so we can control the coordinates coming back to the screen. So if I just stick in a do loop, and up here, I'm going to set a value called show chord. So rem controlling value for showing screen coords. And what this is, I'm just going to name it sh chords, and I'm going to set this to 1 to start with. What this little variable is going to do, I'm going to check it, and whether it's switched on 1 or 0's off, or determine whether it shows the coordinates on the screen or not. This is quite useful for doing little debuggy things when you're coding and you don't actually want it to be part of the main program when you're finished. So it's a little tool, if it were. So let's go on then. So if sh coords or chords equals 1, then we need to go to a procedure which I've already put in this program called gfx HDW, I don't know why I've called it this, chords. It's going to show hardware coordinates, and then we'll just end if on there. Then I'm going to press F3, which indents that nicely. So what this is going to do, it's going to check this variable, which is set to 1. So if it's sh chords is set to 1, then it will jump into this procedure here. This is a procedure I pulled out of a previous program. Once again, you'll be able to download this source code. But what this is doing is getting the hardware coordinates of the mouse by using X mouse and Y mouse and assigning them to X and Y accordingly. We're then printing that on the screen. We're getting the graphics coordinates by using X screen and Y screen as well. So converting the hardware coordinates back to graphics coordinates, and then we're printing them out as well. So if I press F1 now, we should have a program that does this. And as you can see, these numbers are changing as I'm moving my mouse. So what it's doing is showing me my hardware coordinates and my screen coordinates, my graphics coordinates. And we're going to use these values to determine where we need to cut on this IFF file to cut these buttons out. So this will be our get icon. We'll use the coordinates that we give it to cut these out. So it doesn't look very elegant, but obviously we'll remove these for the finished part of the program. But just so you know, this is how we're going to get our coordinates. So let's get on and do that now. Right, so let's get going. So we're going to now use the get icon command, and this is made up of the icon number and its X and Y starting coordinates and its X and Y ending coordinates. You can optionally put in a screen number as well. So if you've got multiple screens that you're collecting stuff from, you can tell it what screen to go with. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to get from screen 1. This will be icon 1, and the coordinates are 153, 40 to 244, 60. So Yawning Angel, how do you know what those numbers are? Well, it's basically because I've now got my coordinates showing on the screen. I can position my mouse to the edges of that icon and read off what those values need to be. So let me run that program. So I want this button first, so this open button. And I said the coordinates, my starting X and Y coordinates were, so my X coordinates were 153. So it's hard to do exactly, but trust me, that's 153. It's between 152 and 154. I can't get the mouse to go any finer, so it's 153. And we wanted our starting Y coordinates. So if we look on our Y screen coordinates, come down here, we're on 40 for that. So that's where I got that figure from. Then our 2 coordinates is going to be down in this bottom corner, and I said that was going to be 244, 60. So if I just move the mouse slightly, it's really tricky to do, and it is a little bit of trial and error. It depends on the sensitivity of your mouse. But if you see here, it's 244 and 60. So that's how I got that value. So what I'm going to do now is put in the coordinates for all of these other buttons and assign them an icon number. So we'll do that next. Right, what I'm going to do now is type in the rest of the get icon coordinates, because I've already calculated these using that method that I showed you just now. So I'm going to get on and type this in. So yeah. So this will be the second one, which is 153, 69 to 244, 89. Get icon screen 1, 3. This will be the third button. 152, that should probably be 153, but we'll argue about that later. 110 to 244, 130. Get icon 1, 4, 152, 139 to 244, 159. In case you're wondering, I do have these written down. I haven't memorized these, trust me. So I'm reading off of a screen, just getting these values. 1, 5 for this one, and this will be 280, 40 to 372, 60. And finally, get icon screen 1, 6, because there are going to be 6 icons, because there's 3 buttons and there's 2 images for each. 280, 68 to 372, 88. Brilliant. So that's got all of my icons. Now what I need to do, let's tidy this code up. I just now need to set up the screen where these captured icons are going to be pasted back to. So all I'm going to do now is actually clear the screen, get rid of that graphics file that I've already loaded in, because I've set my screen up here. I've loaded that image in, I've cut out everything that I need to cut out, and now I'm going to do away with that and set up a nice clean screen. So I'm going to set this up, so set my background to white, which is 4 in this instance, flash off, and just do the usual, cursor off, that's that. Next up, I'm going to actually reserve some zones because I'm going to have 3 buttons, so I need to reserve 3 zones in memory to deal with those buttons. Good, let's press F1, and well, first of all let's save this. So I've saved that using left Amiga S because I've already saved this main file earlier. So let's press F1 now, and I should get a blank screen. I've got a blank screen with my coordinates because I've now cleared the screen and done away with the image file that was initially loaded. Brilliant stuff. So Control C to quit back to the source. And what I'm going to do now is start drawing those buttons back to the screen. Right, something I do just want to mention quickly before we go on. If you want to double check anything any point in time in terms of have you got the right coordinates for things, all you really need to do is put an apostrophe on this line to comment it out, so that won't clear the screen. So we can double check these coordinates quickly. So if I just do F1 now, so I've got my image there because the screen hasn't been cleared, but I've still got my coordinates. So if, for example, I take the get icon 1,6, which should be the last button here on the screen, which is this exit button here. So I know my X coordinates are 280, which I've got here, and my Y coordinates on that 68. So yep, 68, so we're okay there. And we need to go to 372 on my X coordinates. So if I just go here, we're going to this bottom corner basically. A little bit, there we go, 372-ish, it's a little bit over, you'll find this. Then I need 88 on the Y. So that's roughly it, so 372.88. You will have to tweak this because it's very difficult to get an exact pinpoint position with the mouse. It depends how steady your hand is, how accurate your mouse is. So be prepared to tweak these, but this is a good way to check and balance, you know, as you do the code. Right, so if I Control C out of that, so let's put that line of code back. So let me uncomment that. So we should now have, we're back to here. This is good. Control C. Right, so what I need to do now is draw a box to contain that. So what I'm going to do here is ink 15. Yawning Angel, how do you know this is ink 15? Well, it's because I've worked it out already. Your mileage may vary and you can try different things out. So my box here that I'm going to do is 59, 32 to 471, 68. You can try whatever you like, various different coordinates and stuff. Play around with it. You don't have to follow what I'm doing. Then what I'm going to do is just do a bar, solid bar, which will be 60, 33 as its starting coordinates. We've covered this in a previous video, so I'm not going to go through the syntax on this again, but it's basically starting X position, starting Y position, ending X position, ending Y position. Right, so 470.67. This needs to be 470.67. So you might notice my box and bar coordinates are slightly different. They're one out from each other. And the reason being is because I'm doing a solid bar, but I want an outline around that in a different color. So if I press F1, that'll give me this. So I've got a nice gray box here with a black border around it. Just for cosmetics, you don't have to do it, but it's just there if you need it. So Control C out of that, and my next task now is to put those icons that we've just captured on the screen. So this is what we're going to do here. Paste the buttons as icons, and we'll go into that now. Okay, is everybody having fun? So the next thing is going to be pasting the icons, and I'm going to use the command paste icon for this, and this is quite straightforward. You have your X and Y position where you want the icon to start. So in the top left-hand corner of the icon, where's that going to be? So I've already worked this out. So where I'm going to stick these icons is 100 across and 40 down, and then I'm going to paste icon number 1 at that position. So the format of this is slightly different to the get icon where you told it the number of the icon first. With this, you tell it the number of the icon at the end. So you give it your X coordinate, your Y coordinate, and what icon it's going to be. So the next one will be at position 220, 40, 3, and the next icon, I'll explain this in a bit after I finish typing, 340, 40, 5. So what's going on here? So this is going to be this is the open button that I have done, and this one here is going to be the move my mouse. Apologies for leaving the mouse over some of the stuff I'm typing. Somebody did mention this in the comments some time ago, and I do apologize. It's a mistake that I make even in my day-to-day coding. Right, and this one, can you guess what this one is? It's going to be my exit button. Right, so Yawning Angel, why have you only pasted version 1, version 3 and version 5? Or sorry, icon 1, icon 3 and icon 5. Because 1 is the first version of the icon, the one that you're going to see when nothing's happening on the screen. 3 is the first version of that close button, so that'll be shown on the screen when nothing's happening. And 5 is the first version of the exit button, shown when nothing's happening on the screen. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is save that quickly. And now if I press F1, we should see 3 icons appear on the screen. And there they are. Open, close, exit. Don't worry about your coordinates for now. We'll turn them off in a bit. But for now, we've got those buttons have now appeared on the screen. So what we've got to do now is set up some zones so the mouse knows when it's clicked on one of these buttons. And we need to put some actions in as to what's going to happen when we click on them, because at the moment, nothing's happening, obviously. So let's get back into the code. And what we'll do, so we've done that. Now we need to define the zones for the buttons. Now I've already calculated these earlier. So what I'm just going to do now is type this in. So we've got zone 1. We'll have 3 zones because we've got 3 buttons. But I know the zones are 340, 40 to 428, 60. So that's going to be for the exit button. I did this slightly differently for some reason. Don't ask me why, but the results are the same. And this one has to be 102, 40 to 190, 60. Rem, that's going to be for the open button, and sets zone 3, and that's going to be 220, 40 to 310, 60, and that should be the close button. And we'll save that. So what I'm doing here is defining the zones over those buttons. So how did I get those? So if I run that, so my zone, my first zone for the, what I defined as for the exit button should be from 340. So here we go, and on my X coordinates, 340, and starting at position 40, so that's that corner there. And then for my 2 positions, should be at 428, which it pretty much is, 428 there, and my Y coordinate should be down here at 60. 60, yeah, there we go, 428, 60. 428, 60, and that's the corner of that button. So I've kept my coordinates still shown on the screen because I need them to work out where I'm going to set my zones. See, useful little utilities like this, have them running while you're coding. There's nothing wrong with that. If it helps you get the job done and saves you a lot of angst, go for it, because this stuff can easily be hidden later. Right, now we can get on with doing some actions on here and controlling what's going to happen next. Right, so in our do loop, this is where we're going to control the actions for these buttons. So we've got our zones set up, so we're going to talk about our mouse zones now. So what I'm going to do in here is if mouse click, and let's end if on there, F3 to indent that. Right, so we're going to check now for each button to see if it's been clicked on. And what I'm going to use for that is if mouse zone equals 1. So we're dealing with the exit button first. Excuse me. What I'm going to do is now do something trick. We're going to get a bit of animation. So we're going to put the second icon on that position, and then we're going to wait a moment, and then we're going to replace it with the first icon. So it will give this sense of animation. So what I'm going to do is paste icon, and I know that position is 340, 40, and I'm going to put icon number 6 on there. I'm then going to wait 8 milliseconds, is that? Should be. And then I'm going to paste icon 340, 40, number 5. Then I will do an exit eventually, but I just want to show you this working first of all. So let's do this. So I'll just tidy that up, come down here. Right, so now if I press F1, so we're in here. So what I'm going to do is press this exit button and you'll see what happens. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We've actually got a little bit of animation. Nice. It's subtle. It's not perfect because I'm not a graphics artist and I don't claim to be. But this gives you a little bit of animation on the button. Just gives some feedback to the user saying that they have actually clicked this position. Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. So now what I can do in there, go back to my code. Oops, gone too far. So after I've done all the pasting and all the rest of it, I actually need this to do something functional and I need it to exit the program efficiently. So let me save that. So now when I go up here, if I press exit, the program exits as it should. So what I'm going to do now is go in and I'll do one more. And what I need to do, what I need to do now is if mouse zone equals 2, I want to do another paste icon. So this will be for the open button. So 100, 40, 2. So it's the second icon goes in first. We wait 8 milliseconds and then we paste the first version in, 1. And then we give that an end if. Good. If I F1, oh, syntax error. Oh, paste icon. Yawning angel, getting carried away with myself there. Yeah, well, there we go. Let's try that. So now if I click on here, oh, look at that, a little bit more animation. See, the button just subtly changes to denote that it has been pressed. Lovely. Right, what I'm going to do now is dump the code in for the close, and then we'll come back and we'll put some things in. Because what are these opening? What are they closing? Who knows? Right, this is what I've got. I've put in the code for the close button and I've added some extras because now when I click open, it opens a window. Yeah, we've covered opening of windows on one of my previous videos. There'll be a link up above somewhere. If I hit close, it closes the window, and if I exit, it exits the program. One last thing for me to do back up here in step 4 is limit the mouse. And I need to limit that to 157, 74 to 363, 110. Yawning angel, how did you get those figures? Well, it's because I use the coordinates on the screen to work out the hardware coordinates of where I need to be limiting my mouse to. I'll leave that for you to do. I've also turned off the coordinates. Well, actually, no, let's turn them back on again. There is a problem with this code. And that being that if I try and open the window with the coordinates shown, it tries to print those coordinates into the window. I haven't, this is a quick and dirty piece of code to show you how all this works, so I haven't gone into any detail on trying to sort that out. But anyway, let's just press F1. So in terms of, so you can see my mouse is now limited in here. No matter what I do, this mouse is not moving out of those boundaries. And I set those boundaries to 15774. So if we're looking at the hardware coordinates now, 15774 and down to 363,110. So that's how I got those coordinates. Okay, so let me exit that. And now if I go back in here, switch that off, save the program, press F1, and now I've got an open. You're probably thinking, what happens when you press open again, Yawning Angel? I've got some validation in there which stops it from trying to open a window again. And the same if I hit close multiple times, it only closes the window once. So let me go in and show you what I've done there. So let me come down here. So for mouse zone 2, it pastes the icon, the second icon, then it waits, then pastes the first icon for that open. Then it checks a value called wind open. If that is set to 0, it sets it to 1, and then it fires into a procedure called open wind, which is down here at the bottom of the program. And all this does is just open a window at those coordinates. You're probably thinking, where have you put that variable, Yawning Angel, that you're checking? And that is in step 3, wind open, it's set to 0 at the start of the program. So now if I go back down here, so if mouse zone is 3, does the things with the buttons, this will be the close. It checks the value of window open. So if there is a window that's open, it will close it, and then it sets the window open value back to 0. So if you click the button multiple times, it's not constantly trying to close a window. Press in F1, open, close, exit. And we've got some animated buttons, which I'm pleased with. So that is how you do animated buttons from an IFF file in AMOS. Brilliant. So there you go. We've got it working. Buttons with a little bit of animation on them just to make them feel like buttons in our AMOS program. How good is that? Don't forget the source code for this program and source files will be available on my website. There should be an address showing up somewhere. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you like what I do, feel free to subscribe. I'm on KoFi as well. Links in the description down below for everything. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to watch this video. Thank you once again also to the people who have been really kind and left some wonderful comments on my AMOS videos, both here on YouTube and on Twitter and Mastodon as well. Really, thanks ever so much, folks. I really appreciate it. Going to carry on doing these because they're a lot of fun. Anyway, that's it for now. Take care. There'll be another one coming up in the future, but whatever you do in the meantime, take care of yourself and keep it retro.